You left me to die. Navy SEAL's brother betrays him, but 8-year-old boy changes everything. When a former Navy SEAL answers a wrong call at 3 a.m., he thinks he's just helping a stranger. But what he discovers will force him to confront the brother who betrayed him, the enemy who wants revenge, and the family he never knew he needed. This is a story about second chances, brotherhood, and the courage to protect what matters most. If you believe in the power of redemption and found family, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive into this intense journey together. Don't forget to like and share your thoughts in the comments. The phone screamed at 3:22 a.m., cutting through the silence of Marcus Kane's Chicago apartment like a blade through flesh. He grabbed it with the reflexes of a man who'd spent too many years jumping out of helicopters in the middle of the night. "Marcus Kane," he growled, his voice rough with sleep and whiskey. "Dr. Chen." The voice was cold, calculating. "You know why I'm calling?" Marcus sat up straighter, instantly alert. Years of combat had taught him to read danger in a voice, and this one reeked of it. "Wrong number, pal. There's no Dr. Chen here." A pause, then, "Don't play games. You owe Vicente 50 grand from the poker game. Time to pay up." The line went dead. Marcus stared at the phone, his mind already racing. Dr. Chen. Chicago was full of doctors, but something about this felt wrong. The caller hadn't been surprised by Marcus's voice. He'd known exactly who he was calling. 3 minutes later, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, 2D847 N Lincoln Ave, Apt 4B, 1 hour. Come alone. Marcus knew that address. It was in Lincoln Park, about 20 minutes from his place in Bucktown. Someone was playing a very dangerous game, and innocent people were about to get caught in the crossfire. He pulled on his jeans and reached for his leather vest, the one with the Iron Wolves patches that had kept him alive through 6 years of motorcycle club politics. The Sig Sauer went into its shoulder holster hidden beneath his jacket. As he fired up his Harley and headed into the Chicago night, Marcus's thoughts drifted to Emma. His little girl would have been 9 now if the bombing at the embassy hadn't taken her and her mother 2 years ago. He'd been in Syria, couldn't get home in time, couldn't save them, just like he couldn't save Vincent Reeves when their SEAL unit got ambushed in Afghanistan. The address led to a decent apartment building in Lincoln Park, not the kind of place where high-stakes poker games usually ended badly. Marcus parked across the street and studied the building through the scope mounted on his rifle. No unusual movement, no lookouts he could see, but his instincts were screaming. He left the rifle and approached on foot, every sense hyper-alert. The front door was locked, but the security was a joke. Marcus had it open in 30 seconds. Old habits from his days with DevGru died hard. Apartment 4B was on the 4th floor. Marcus took the stairs, avoiding the elevator that would trap him in a metal box. When he reached the landing, he could hear voices through the thin walls. A woman's voice, tense with fear, and a child's sleepy mumbling. Dr. Sarah Chen, he realized. A real person, not just a name in some enforcer's book. Marcus knocked softly on the door. 3 quick taps, then 2. A signal that said, "Friend, not foe," in the language understood by anyone who'd lived through violence. "Dr. Chen, Bo," he called quietly. "My name is Marcus Kane. I think we need to talk." Silence, then the soft sound of bare feet on hardwood. "Go away," came a woman's voice, thick with exhaustion and terror. "Please, whatever this is about, I don't know anything." "No, someone called me looking for you," Marcus said, keeping his voice calm and level. "They think you owe money to someone named Vicente. That name mean anything to you?" Another pause. "I've never heard of any Vicente. I don't gamble. I don't owe anyone money." The fear in her voice was real, but so was the confusion. She genuinely had no idea what this was about, which meant someone was using her as bait. "Chen, I need you to listen to me carefully," Marcus said. "I think you and I are both being set up. Someone wanted me to come here to this address. Can you look out your window and tell me if you see anything unusual?" He heard footsteps moving away from the door. A minute later, they returned. "There's a van across the street," she said, her voice tight with new fear. "Dark-colored, men sitting inside. They weren't there an hour ago." Marcus cursed under his breath. Blood ravens. Had to be. They'd been pushing into Iron Wolf's territory for months, and this felt exactly like their style. Elaborate psychological warfare designed to turn enemies against each other. "Dr. Chen, I need you to pack a bag for you and your son. Quietly. Don't turn on any lights." How do you know I have a son? The fear had turned sharp now, protective. Lucky guess. Most single mothers in Lincoln Park have kids. Pack light, just essentials. We're leaving in 5 minutes. I'm not going anywhere with a stranger who shows up at my door in the middle of the night. Marcus understood her fear, but they didn't have time for proper introductions. Under Dr. Chen, Sarah, those men in that van aren't here to deliver flowers. Someone set both of us up tonight, and staying here is going to get you and your boy killed. Through the door, he heard a child's voice. Mom, who's at the door? Just someone who needs directions. Honey, go back to bed. But the boy's voice had done something to Marcus that he hadn't expected. 8 years old, maybe 9. Same age Emma would have been. Sarah, Marcus said, and his voice had gone softer. I know you don't know me from Adam, but I've got a little girl too. Had. He still couldn't bring himself to use past tense. And if someone threatened her, I'd want a stranger to help if I couldn't. The silence stretched longer this time. When Sarah spoke again, there was something different in her voice. Who are you really? Former Navy SEAL currently riding with Iron Wolves MC. Someone's trying to start a war between my club and the Blood Ravens, and they're using you as the spark. I don't know why they picked you specifically, but it doesn't matter now. They think you're connected to me, which makes you a target. A biker gang. Her voice cracked. Oh God, Alex, come here, baby. Marcus heard rapid footsteps, then hushed conversation. A child's voice rose in confusion and fear. 5 minutes, Marcus repeated. After that, I can't guarantee your safety. Those 5 minutes felt like 5 hours. Marcus kept watch on the van, while listening to the sounds of rapid packing through the door. His phone buzzed, a text from Jake, his brother and second in command of the Iron Wolves. Where are you, club business at the warehouse? Need you here now. Marcus frowned. Jake knew better than to text sensitive club information, and there was no emergency that couldn't wait until morning. Unless Jake was the one who'd set this up. The thought hit Marcus like a physical blow. Jake had been acting strange lately, asking too many questions about club finances, pushing for more aggressive expansion into Blood Ravens territory. And Jake was one of the few people who knew about Marcus's past with Vincent Reeves. The apartment door opened, and Sarah Chen appeared with a medical bag in a small overnight case. Behind her was a boy with serious dark eyes and messy black hair, clutching a stuffed dinosaur. Marcus's breath caught. The kid looked so much like Emma, it hurt. This is Alex, Sarah said quietly. Alex, this is Mr. Kane. He's going to help us. Alex studied Marcus with the solemn intensity only children possessed. Are you a good guy or a bad guy? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Marcus crouched down to Alex's eye level, making himself smaller and less threatening. I'm trying to be a good guy, he said honestly. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. Alex nodded as if this made perfect sense. Mom says the world is complicated. Your mom's right about that. Marcus stood and turned to Sarah. My bike's across the street. Can you ride? She looked at the Harley parked under the streetlight and swallowed hard. Not exactly built for 3 people. We'll make it work. Alex, you ever been on a motorcycle? The boy's eyes went wide with excitement and terror. Mom says they're dangerous. Mom's right about that too. But sometimes dangerous is safer than staying still. As they left the building, Marcus caught movement in the van. He put himself between it and Sarah and Alex, his hand finding the grip of his pistol. Walk normally, he murmured. Don't look at the van. Get to the bike. They made it halfway across the street before the van doors opened and 4 men poured out. Marcus recognized the leather cuts. Blood Ravens, just as he'd suspected. But the man leading them made his blood run cold. Vincent Viper Reeves, missing his left leg below the knee, moving with the help of a titanium prosthetic and a permanent limp. The man Marcus had left behind in that Afghan valley 8 years ago. Well, well, Vincent called out, his voice carrying across the empty street. Marcus Kane. Been a long time, brother. Marcus positioned himself protectively in front of Sarah and Alex. Not long enough, Viper. You know, when my boys told me they had a line on Dr. Sarah Chen, I thought it was just another deadbeat debtor. Imagine my surprise when they said Iron Wolf's top enforcer would be coming to collect personally. Vincent's smile was all teeth and old pain. Small world, isn't it? Sarah grabbed Alex's hand, pulling him closer. Marcus, who is this man? Someone I should have helped a long time ago, Marcus said quietly, never taking his eyes off Vincent. Someone I failed. Failed. Vincent laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. Is that what you call leaving your teammate behind enemy lines failure? The memories crashed back. The ambush in the mountains. The improvised explosive that had taken out half their unit. Vincent trapped under debris while Taliban fighters closed in. Marcus had made the call to pull back, regroup, come back for survivors. Standard protocol. By the time they'd fought their way back, Vincent was gone. 3 days in Taliban, hands before a rescue team found him missing a leg and half his mind. I came back for you, Marcus said. We all did. 3 days too late. Vincent's hand moved to his weapon. 3 days of questioning that left me with more than just a missing leg. Alex whimpered and pressed closer to his mother. The sound seemed to cut through Vincent's anger like a knife. You brought a kid, Vincent said, his voice changing, to a play date between old friends. I didn't bring him anywhere, Marcus replied. You did, the moment you set this trap. Vincent's eyes flicked to Sarah, then to Alex. Something shifted in his expression. A flicker of uncertainty, maybe even shame. Mom, Alex whispered, I'm scared. Sarah's voice was steady despite the terror Marcus could see in her eyes. It's okay, baby. We're going to be fine. But Vincent's men were spreading out, flanking them. Civilians were walking into the middle of a war, and there was nowhere to run. Marcus made a decision that would change everything. Vince, he said, using his old teammate's real name. You want me? Here I am. Let the woman and boy go. They're not part of this. Vincent studied him for a long moment. You always were too noble for your own good. That's what made you a good SEAL and a terrible friend. Maybe so, but they're innocent. No one's innocent in this world, Marcus. Your club taught me that when they started pushing into my territory. My club, Marcus felt puzzle pieces clicking into place. How would you know anything about Iron Wolf's business? Vincent's smile returned, but this time it was full of satisfaction. Because someone's been keeping me very well informed about your activities. Someone who knows exactly where you'd be and when. The betrayal hit Marcus like a physical blow. Jake, his own brother, had been feeding information to the Blood Ravens. Sarah's hand found Marcus's arm. We need to go, she whispered urgently. Now. But before Marcus could respond, his phone rang. Jake's ringtone. Vincent's smile widened. Answer it. Marcus hesitated, then accepted the call and put it on speaker. Marcus, Jake's voice was tight with manufactured urgency. Where the hell are you? We've got Blood Ravens hitting 3 of our safe houses simultaneously. I need every man back at base now. Funny thing about that, Marcus said, his eyes locked on Vincent. I'm looking at Vincent Reeves right now and he doesn't seem to be hitting any safe houses. Dead silence on the line. Then Jake's voice smaller now. Marcus? How long, Jake? How long have you been selling out your own club? It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. Marcus's voice was ice. You set this up. The call about Dr. Chen, the meeting tonight. You wanted Vince to take me out so you could run the Iron Wolves. Alex tugged on his mother's hand. Mom, why are the men angry? Sarah knelt beside her son, shielding him with her body. Sometimes grown-ups make bad choices, baby, but the good guys are going to fix it. Marcus looked down at this woman who barely knew him, but somehow trusted him to be one of the good guys. At the boy who reminded him so much of Emma, it made his chest ache. He made his choice. Jake, he said into the phone, when this is over, we're going to have a conversation. A long one, but he hung up and faced Vincent. So what's the play here, Viper? Your intel source just got burned. You could walk away now, start fresh somewhere else. Vincent considered this, his weight shifting on his prosthetic leg. Or I could finish what should have been finished 8 years ago. In front of a kid. Kids see worse than this every day. Not this kid, not on my watch. Vincent's expression softened slightly as he looked at Alex. You really think you can protect them? Your own brother sold you out. Who else is working against you? Doesn't matter. I'm here now. Yes, Vincent said quietly. You are. For a moment, Marcus thought his old teammate might actually walk away. Then Vincent's hand moved to his weapon, and Marcus knew the talking was over. But before either man could draw, Alex stepped forward. Stop, the boy said, his young voice cutting through the tension like a bell. Please stop fighting. Everyone froze. This 8-year-old child standing in the middle of a confrontation between armed killers, looking like he was about to cry, but determined to speak. My dad left because he said the fighting was too hard. Alex continued, his words barely above a whisper. But fighting just makes everything worse. Can't you please just not fight? Vincent stared at the boy for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough with something that might have been shame. Kids, sometimes the world doesn't give you a choice. There's always a choice, Alex said with the certainty only children possessed. Mom taught me that. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Alex, honey, come back here. But Alex looked up at Vincent with those serious dark eyes. What happened to your leg? Vincent blinked, clearly thrown by the directness of the question. Someone hurt me a long time ago. Does it still hurt? Every day. Alex nodded solemnly. My mom's a doctor. She fixes people who hurt. Maybe she could help you too. The silence stretched until it felt like a living thing. Vincent's men were looking at their leader with confusion, waiting for orders that weren't coming. Finally, Vincent lowered his hand from his weapon. You know what, kid, maybe you're right about choices. He looked at Marcus. This isn't over between us. But it doesn't have to happen tonight. Vincent, don't. Vincent held up a hand. Don't thank me. Don't apologize. Just take care of the kid. He's got more sense than either of us. Vincent jerked his head at his men, and they began backing toward their van. Next time we meet, it won't be in front of civilians. Remember that. As the Blood Ravens drove away, Sarah stood and pulled Alex against her side. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. Is it over? Marcus watched the van disappear around the corner. For tonight, but Vincent was right about one thing. This isn't finished. What happens now? Marcus looked at this woman and child who had somehow become his responsibility. Sarah Chen, trauma surgeon at Chicago General, single mother who'd been trying to build a quiet life for her son. Alex, 8 years old, who'd just stared down armed killers and somehow found words that stopped a war from starting. They reminded him why he'd become a SEAL in the first place. Not for the violence, but to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. Now, Marcus said, I take you somewhere safe while I figure out how deep this betrayal goes. And after that, Marcus thought about Jake's phone call about how many other Iron Wolves might be compromised, about Vincent Reeves and the pain Marcus had carried for 8 years, about Emma, who would never get to be brave like Alex. After that, he said, I keep my promise to a little boy who thinks the world can be fixed. Sarah studied his face in the streetlight. What promise? Marcus knelt down beside Alex again. I promise that as long as I'm breathing, nothing bad is going to happen to you or your mom. Okay. Alex nodded seriously and held out his hand. Deal. Marcus shook the small hand gravely. Deal. As they climbed onto his Harley, Sarah behind him, Alex sandwiched safely between them, Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced in 2 years. Hope. The bike roared to life and they headed into the Chicago night. Behind them, the apartment building stood empty, and somewhere in the darkness, Jake Morrison realized he'd just lost the only family he had left. The safe house was a small cottage in Evanston, 20 minutes north of the city. Marcus had bought it 3 years ago under a false name, somewhere to disappear if the club life got too hot. Now it was sheltering a doctor and her son, who'd been thrown into his world through no fault of their own. Sarah tucked Alex into the guest bedroom, his dinosaur clutched tight against his chest. The boy had been unnaturally quiet during the ride, processing everything he'd seen with the serious intensity that seemed to be his default setting. Is Mr. Kane going to stay with us? Alex asked as Sarah pulled the blanket up to his chin. For a while, honey. Just until it's safe. Good. I like him. Alex yawned. He reminds me of Captain Rodriguez. Sarah's chest tightened. Captain Rodriguez had been Alex's father. Had been until he decided that marriage and fatherhood were too much responsibility and walked away when Alex was 3. The boy barely remembered him now, but somehow Marcus had triggered some distant memory. Go to sleep, baby. Everything's going to be okay. But as Sarah left Alex's room and found Marcus standing at the kitchen window watching the street with combat alertness, she wondered if anything would ever be okay again. Coffee, she offered, needing something to do with her hands. Thanks. Marcus didn't turn from the window. I made some calls. My club is handling the immediate threat, but we need to talk about the long term. Sarah found mugs and started the coffee maker. Her mind racing. 12 hours ago, her biggest worry had been covering the rent on her apartment. Now she was hiding from motorcycle gangs in a safe house with a man who carried weapons, like other people carried keys. How did this happen? She asked. How did my name end up in whatever game you people are playing? Marcus finally turned from the window. In the soft kitchen light, he looked older, more worn. I think that my brother chose you specifically because you're clean. No criminal connections, no debt problems, just a regular person living a regular life. Perfect bait. Bait for what? For getting me isolated and vulnerable. If Jake wanted to take over the Iron Wolves, he'd need me out of the way first. Sarah poured coffee into both mugs, her hands steadier than she felt. Are all motorcycle clubs like this betrayal and violence and... No, Marcus said simply. Some are, some aren't. The Iron Wolves used to be different. Used to be, Marcus accepted the coffee gratefully. We started as a veteran support group, guys coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan who couldn't adjust to civilian life. The club gave us structure, brotherhood, purpose. What changed? Money, territory, the usual corruptions. Marcus sipped his coffee, remembering. Jake wanted us to get into the drug trade, weapons trafficking. Said we were leaving too much money on the table by staying legit. But you disagreed. I've seen what that life does to people, what it does to families. Marcus's voice dropped. What it did to Vincent. Sarah studied his profile, noting the way his jaw tightened when he mentioned his former teammate. What really happened between you two? Marcus was quiet for so long, Sarah thought he wouldn't answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was distant with memory. Special operations in Afghanistan 8 years ago. Vincent and I were part of the same SEAL team. Close as brothers. He paused. Closer than I was with my actual brother, as it turned out. What went wrong? Ambush in the mountains. IED took out half our unit, left Vincent trapped under debris with Taliban fighters closing in. I made the call to fall back and regroup. Sarah could hear the guilt in his voice, heavy as a stone. Standard protocol. Standard protocol. But Vincent didn't see it that way when we finally got him back 3 days later. Marcus set down his coffee cup. He was right. I chose the mission over the man. You chose what would save the most lives. Maybe. Vincent lost his leg, spent 6 months in psychiatric care. By the time he was discharged, he'd changed. Angry, bitter, started the Blood Ravens as a way to get back at a world that had left him behind. Sarah moved closer, drawn by the pain in his voice. Marcus, you can't blame yourself for... Can I? He turned to face her. I had a choice in that valley. Save my teammate or complete the mission. I chose the mission and Vincent paid the price. And now he wants you to pay. Now he wants me to understand what it feels like to lose something that matters. Sarah's breath caught. Alex and me. We're not really the target, are we? We're the leverage. Marcus nodded grimly. Vincent's too smart to just shoot me in the street. He wants me to suffer first. Watch helpless while people under my protection get hurt. Like you felt helpless when he was captured. Exactly like that. They stood in silence, the weight of the situation settling between them. Outside Chicago slept peacefully, unaware of the quiet war being fought in its shadows. So what do we do? Sarah asked finally. I take you and Alex somewhere Vincent can't find you. Somewhere safe. And then Marcus's expression hardened. Then I deal with my brother and Vincent and anyone else who thinks they can threaten innocent people to get to me. Sarah studied his face, seeing the soldier beneath the motorcycle club enforcer. You're planning to go alone, aren't you? It's the only way to keep you safe. Or it's the only way to get yourself killed. Sarah crossed her arms. How does that help Alex? He's already lost one father figure. You want him to lose another? The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. I'm not his father. No. Then what was that promise you made? What was that handshake? Marcus had no answer for that. In the space of one night, he'd somehow taken responsibility for 2 people he barely knew. People who reminded him of everything he'd lost. His phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. Nice safe house. Too bad it won't stay safe for long. Attached was a photo, the cottage where they were staying, taken from across the street. Shit. Marcus moved to the window, scanning the darkness. We need to go, now. What's wrong? They found us. Marcus was already moving, checking weapons, grabbing supplies. Pack light, just essentials. Sarah ran to Alex's room, gently shaking her son awake. Honey, we need to go again. Alex sat up, instantly alert with the hyper-awareness children developed in dangerous situations. Are the bad men back? Maybe, but Mr. Kane is going to keep us safe. As they hurried toward Marcus's bike, Alex tugged on his sleeve. Mr. Kane, why do the bad men want to hurt us? Marcus knelt down, looking the boy in the eye. Sometimes when adults make mistakes, other people get hurt. But I'm not going to let that happen to you. Did you make a mistake? The question hung in the air like a judgment. Marcus thought about Vincent trapped under debris while Marcus chose duty over loyalty. About Jake, his brother, who had felt overlooked and undervalued until he chose betrayal over family. Yeah, Marcus said quietly, I made a lot of mistakes, but I'm going to fix them. They climbed onto the Harley again, but this time Marcus knew they were being hunted. As they rode through the empty streets of Chicago, he could feel eyes watching from every shadow. Enemies closing in from every direction. His phone rang through his Bluetooth headset. He almost ignored it, then saw the caller ID. Tommy Rodriguez. His oldest friend in the Iron Wolves, the only man he trusted completely. Tank, Marcus answered. Reaper, where the hell are you? Tommy's voice was tight with urgency. Jake's telling everyone you've gone rogue. Says you killed 3 blood ravens tonight and kidnapped a doctor and her kid. Marcus felt the trap closing around him. Tank, listen to me carefully. Jake is the one who's gone rogue. He's working with Vincent Reeves. Vincent Reeves, your old SEAL buddy Marcus. That's impossible. Vincent Reeves died in Afghanistan. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. What did you say? Vincent Reeves, KIA 8 years ago. I've seen his military file. Marcus's mind raced. If Vincent was officially dead, then who had been running the Blood Ravens? Who had been at the apartment tonight? Tank. I need you to look deeper into that file, and I need you to stay away from Jake until I figure what's going on. Brother, you're scaring me. Just come in. We'll sort this out. I can't. Not until I know who I can trust. Marcus hung up and pulled over under a streetlight. Sarah and Alex climbed off the bike, both of them watching his face with concern. What's wrong? Sarah asked. Everything I thought I knew about tonight might be wrong. Marcus stared at his phone, trying to piece together the fragments of truth. Vincent Reeves is supposed to be dead. But we saw him. Alex and I both saw him. You saw someone who called himself Vincent Reeves? Someone who knew enough about my past to play the role perfectly. Sarah's medical training kicked in. Plastic surgery. It's possible, especially if they had access to photos and medical records. But why go through all that trouble? Why not just shoot me in the street? Alex, who had been listening with the intensity only children possess, tugged on Marcus's jacket. Mr. Kane, maybe they don't really want to hurt you. And what do you mean, buddy? When my dad left, he said he was angry at Mom, but really he was just scared. Alex looked up with those serious dark eyes. Maybe the fake Vincent is scared too. Out of the mouths of babes, Marcus knelt down beside Alex, seeing the situation with sudden clarity. Alex, you might be right. What if this isn't about revenge at all? Sarah frowned. Then what's it about? Marcus stood slowly, the pieces finally clicking into place. Control. Jake doesn't want to kill me. He wants to discredit me. Make me look like I've lost it, gone rogue. That way he can take over the Iron Wolves legitimately. And Vincent, or whoever that was, a hired actor, someone Jake found who could pass for my dead teammate long enough to sell the story. But that still means Alex and I are in danger. Marcus nodded grimly. More danger than before. If Jake's willing to go this far to frame me, he won't hesitate to eliminate witnesses. His phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Warehouse District, Pier 19. Come alone, or the game changes. This time the photo attached showed a young woman tied to a chair. Someone Marcus didn't recognize. Sarah gasped. That's Dr. Martinez. She works in my department. Jake's escalating, Marcus said. He's got your colleague, and he's going to keep taking people until I surrender. Then we call the police and tell them what that my brother is framing me using a dead man's identity while running an elaborate psychological operation. They'll lock me up for psychiatric evaluation. Sarah looked from Marcus to her son, weighing impossible choices. So what do we do? Alex stepped forward with that solemn courage that broke Marcus's heart. We saved the doctor lady, he said simply. Alex, honey, this isn't a game. I know, Mom, but Mr. Kane promised to protect people, and promises are important. Marcus felt the weight of that promise settling on his shoulders like a mantle. Emma would never get the chance to be as brave as this boy, but maybe if he was very careful and very lucky, he could make sure Alex grew up to be the kind of man who kept his promises. Okay, Marcus said. We saved Dr. Martinez, but we do it smart. How? Marcus looked at the peer address on his phone, then at Sarah and Alex. A crazy plan was forming in his mind. Dangerous, unpredictable, but maybe crazy enough to work. How good are you with that medical bag of yours? He asked Sarah. Very good. Why? Because we're going to give Jake exactly what he wants. A broken, desperate man who's lost everything. Marcus's smile was cold as winter. Time to find out how good an actor my brother really is. The warehouse district at Pier 19 squatted against Lake Michigan like a rusted metal cancer. Marcus parked the Harley 3 blocks away in the shadows between abandoned buildings that had once housed Chicago's industrial heart. Remember the plan, he told Sarah as they checked their equipment one final time. Stay hidden until you hear the signal. If something goes wrong, you take Alex and you run. No heroics. Sarah adjusted the medical bag across her shoulder. I still think this is insane. Insane is all I've got left. Marcus knelt down beside Alex, who was wearing a Kevlar vest that was too big for him, borrowed from Marcus's emergency stash. You sure you want to do this, buddy? It's not too late to change your mind. Alex's jaw set with determination that reminded Marcus painfully of Emma. Dr. Martinez needs help, and you need me. Why do I need you? Because bad guys never expect kids to be smart. Alex's logic was unassailable. And because your brother won't hurt a kid in front of witnesses. Marcus hoped the boy was right about that. Okay, but you do exactly what we practiced, and you don't try to be a hero. Deal. Deal. They moved through the warehouse district like ghosts. Marcus's military training allowing them to avoid the sentries Jake had undoubtedly posted. The main warehouse was lit up like a stage set, exactly what Marcus would expect from someone trying to orchestrate a dramatic confrontation. Marcus led Sarah and Alex to a ventilation grate that opened into the warehouse office area. From there, they could see the main floor where Jake had set up his theatrical showdown. Dr. Carmen Martinez was indeed tied to a chair in the center of the space. She appeared unharmed, but terrified, her dark hair falling across her face as she struggled against her bonds. Around the perimeter of the warehouse, Marcus counted 8 men, too many to be Iron Wolves, which meant Jake had hired outside muscle. Mercenaries, Marcus whispered to Sarah. That's how he's keeping this off the club's books. Jake stood near Dr. Arm. Martinez wearing his Iron Wolves cut, but looking more like a corporate executive than a motorcycle club officer. Even from a distance, Marcus could see the tension in his brother's posture. Time to make an entrance, Marcus said. He handed Sarah a small radio. Channel 3, wait for my signal. Marcus made his way to the warehouse's main entrance, leaving his weapons behind as planned. This had to look like surrender, not an assault. The huge sliding door was open. Marcus walked through it with his hands visible, playing the role of a defeated man. Hello, Jake. His brother turned and Marcus was shocked by how much Jake had changed. Thinner, hollow-eyed, with the look of a man who'd been planning this moment for too long. Marcus, I wasn't sure you'd come. You took an innocent woman, of course I came. Jake's smile was bitter. Innocent. That's always been your weakness, thinking anyone is innocent in this world. Marcus moved closer, keeping his movements slow and non-threatening. Let her go, Jake. This is between us. Is it because from where I stand, it looks like you have been making all kinds of new friends? Jake gestured to his mercenaries. Search him. 2 men approached Marcus, professionally checking him for weapons. They found nothing. The plan depended on Marcus appearing helpless. Clean, one of them reported. Jake nodded. Where's the doctor and her kid? Safe, somewhere you'll never find them. I doubt that. Jake pulled out his phone and showed Marcus a photo. See, while you were playing knight in shining armor, I was doing research. Dr. Sarah Chen, trauma surgeon at Chicago General, lives at 2847 North Lincoln Avenue. 8-year-old son named Alex who attends Lincoln Elementary. Marcus felt cold dread creep up his spine. Jake, whatever you think you're doing, what I'm doing is taking control of a situation that got out of hand. Jake began pacing, his voice rising with nervous energy. Do you know how long I've been cleaning up your messes? How many times I've had to smooth things over because Marcus Kane decided to play hero instead of thinking about the consequences? Is that what this is about? You feeling unappreciated? This is about you being a liability. Jake's voice echoed off the warehouse walls. The Iron Wolves used to be something. We had respect territory, real power. Then you came back from the Navy with your boy scout mentality and started turning us into a charity organization. Marcus saw movement in the shadows near the office area. Sarah and Alex were in position. The club was founded to help veterans Jake, men who needed support transitioning back to civilian life. The club was founded to make money. Jake's control was slipping. But you never understood that, did you? Always too busy saving strangers to see what was right in front of you. Or what was in front of me? Your family, Jake's voice cracked. Your own brother asking for respect, for recognition, for a chance to prove he was worth something. The pain in Jake's voice was real, and for a moment Marcus saw past the betrayal to the hurt underneath. Jake, you never needed to prove anything to me. Didn't I? When was the last time you asked my opinion about club business? When did you ever listen to one of my ideas without shooting it down? Marcus thought back over the past year, trying to remember. Jake was right. Marcus had been dismissive, treating his brother like a junior officer instead of a partner. That doesn't justify this, Marcus said quietly. Threatening innocence, staging elaborate deceptions. Vincent Reeves was a masterstroke, Jake said proudly. Cost me 50 grand to find an actor who could pull it off, but the psychological impact was perfect. Your own guilt and trauma used against you. Where did you find him? Theater scene in Detroit, former military, enough resemblance to pass casual inspection. Amazing that what people will do for money. Marcus felt a flash of rage at how his grief for Vincent had been weaponized. And Dr. Martinez, what's her crime in all this? Wrong place, wrong time. She was on duty when I had Dr. Chen's apartment under surveillance. Saw too much. Dr. Martinez lifted her head, meeting Marcus's eyes. She'd been listening, and her expression showed she understood exactly how expendable Jake considered her. Let her go, Marcus said. You've got me. That's what you wanted. What I want is for you to understand what loss feels like. Jake checked his watch. In about 10 minutes, my men are going to pay a visit to every location Dr. Chen might be hiding. Her apartment, the hospital, her sister's house in Oak Park. You don't even know where she is. I don't need to know. I just need to be thorough. Marcus's blood ran cold. The plan depended on Jake being focused on this warehouse, not sending men to hunt Sarah and Alex. Time to improvise. She's here, Marcus said. Jake went very still. What? Sarah and Alex, they're here in the building. You want them? Come and take them. Jake's face went through several emotions before settling on suspicious anger. You're lying. Am I? Marcus cupped his hands around his mouth and called out, Sarah, Alex, it's okay. You can come out now. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Alex appeared at the edge of the main floor, small and vulnerable in his oversized vest. Mr. Kane, the boy called out, his voice echoing in the vast space. Jake's mercenaries immediately drew weapons, but Jake held up a hand to stop them. Well, Jake said softly, this is unexpected. Alex walked toward them with that steady courage that made Marcus's chest ache. Are you Mr. Kane's brother? I am, Jake said, crouching down to Alex's level. And you're Alex Chen. Yes, sir, my mom's here too. She's really good at fixing people who are hurt. Is she now? Sarah emerged from the shadows, medical bag in hand, moving to stand protectively behind Alex. Dr. Chen, Jake said, rising. How thoughtful of you to join us. Let Dr. Martinez go, Sarah said firmly. If you need a hostage, take me instead. Jake studied her with professional interest. You know that's not a bad idea. Dr. Martinez here is trauma surgery, but your trauma surgery at one of the best hospitals in the city, much more valuable. He gestured to his men. Untie the good doctor. We're upgrading our guest. As the mercenaries moved to release Dr. Martinez, Marcus caught Alex's eye and gave a tiny nod. The boy took a deep breath and then did something completely unexpected. He walked over to Dr. Martinez and began examining her wrists where the ropes had been. "Mom," Alex called out, "Dr. Martinez has rope burns. They look pretty bad." "Let me see, honey." Sarah approached, opening her medical bag. To anyone watching, it looked like a mother and son providing medical care to an injured woman. What they were actually doing was positioning themselves exactly where Marcus needed them to be. "Jake," Marcus said, drawing his brother's attention back to him, "before this goes any further, I need to ask you something." "What? Do you really think killing me will fix anything? Do you think the Iron Wolves will follow you after this?" Jake's jaw tightened. "The Iron Wolves will follow strength. They always have." "This isn't strength, Jake. This is desperation." "Is it? Because from where I stand, I've outplayed you at every turn. I anticipated your moves, controlled your responses, brought you exactly where I wanted you." "You brought me exactly where I wanted to be." Jake frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" Marcus smiled. "Sarah now would be good." Sarah reached into her medical bag and pulled out the smoke grenade Marcus had given her. She pulled the pin and rolled it across the warehouse floor. Instantly, the space filled with thick white smoke. Marcus's night vision goggles, hidden in his jacket, allowed him to see while everyone else was blind. He moved like the SEAL he'd once been, taking down Jake's mercenaries with swift, silent efficiency. Years of training kicked in, muscle memory that had kept him alive in Afghanistan and Iraq. Within 90 seconds, it was over. When the smoke cleared, Jake found himself alone except for unconscious mercenaries and Marcus pointing a pistol he'd taken from one of them. "How?" Jake gasped. "Medical bag," Marcus said simply. "Amazing at what doctors carry these days." Alex appeared at Marcus's side, grinning with excitement. "Did we win?" "We won, buddy." Sarah was checking to Martinez for injuries while Alex helped by holding gauze and supplies. The boy had taken to the role of medical assistant with the same serious intensity he brought to everything else. "Carmen, are you okay?" Sarah asked. Dr. Martinez nodded weakly. "I think so. Thank you. Both of you." Jake stared at his brother with something that might have been admiration. "You played me. I played the situation. There's a difference." "What happens now?" Marcus holstered the weapon and pulled out his phone. "Now I call Tommy and the real Iron Wolves. They'll be very interested to hear about your mercenary friends and your deal with fake Vincent. The club will never forgive this." "No," Marcus agreed sadly. "They won't." Jake's shoulders sagged with the weight of his choices. "I just wanted to matter. To be important." "You always mattered, Jake. You just never believed it." As sirens approached in the distance, Tommy keeping his promise to involve the police when this was all over, Alex tugged on Marcus's jacket. "Mr. Kane, is your brother going to jail?" Marcus looked at Jake, seeing the broken man beneath the betrayal. "Probably, bun." "You be sound?" The question caught Marcus off guard. "Yeah, buddy, I'll be set." Alex considered this with his usual seriousness. "My dad went away too, but Mom says sometimes people have to leave so other people can be safe." "Your mom's a smart woman." "The smartest," Alex agreed. Then he looked up at Marcus with those dark eyes that saw too much. "Are you going to leave too?" The question hung in the warehouse air like a challenge. Marcus looked at this boy who'd faced armed killers with courage, at Sarah, who'd trusted a stranger with her life, at the family they'd somehow become in the span of one impossible night. He thought about Vincent Reeves really dead for 8 years and the guilt Marcus had carried like a stone. He thought about Emma, who would never get to grow up brave and strong like Alex. He thought about second chances and redemption and the courage to choose love over vengeance. "No," Marcus said quietly. "I'm not going anywhere." Alex smiled, the first completely carefree expression Marcus had seen from him. "Good," the boy said, "because we make a really good team." As the police and Iron Wolves arrived to clean up the mess, Marcus realized Alex was right. They did make a good team, and for the first time in 2 years, Marcus Kane had found something worth staying for. 3 months later, Marcus stood in the kitchen of a house in Lincoln Park. Not the safe house, but a real home that Sarah had somehow convinced him he deserved. Alex sat at the kitchen table working on homework, while Marcus attempted to flip pancakes without burning them. You're getting better at that, Sarah observed, coming up behind him to steal a piece of bacon from the pan. Practice makes perfect. Marcus caught her hand and pulled her closer. How was your shift? Long. We had 3 trauma cases come in around midnight. She leaned against him, tired but content. How was bedtime duty? Alex insisted on 3 stories instead of 2. Kid drives a hard bargain. He learned from the best. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching Alex puzzle over his math homework with the same serious intensity he brought to everything else. The boy had adjusted to having Marcus around with remarkable resilience, though he still occasionally asked when his real dad was coming back. Marcus had stopped correcting him about what made a father real. Marcus, Sarah said quietly, the adoption paperwork came through today. Marcus felt his breath catch. They'd been talking about it for weeks, but hearing it made official felt like stepping off a cliff. And Alex wants to know if he can call you dad now. Marcus looked at the boy who'd somehow saved him from himself, who'd shown him what courage really looked like. What did you tell him? I told him to ask you himself. As if summoned by their conversation, Alex looked up from his homework. Dad, can you help me with this math problem? The word hit Marcus like a physical blow, not painful but overwhelming in its simple acceptance. Alex had been testing it out for weeks using dad casually and then watching Marcus's reaction. This time Marcus didn't hesitate. Sure thing, son. What are we working on? Later that night, after Alex had been tucked in and Sarah had fallen asleep against Marcus's chest, Marcus lay awake thinking about Vincent Reeves, the real Vincent who died in that Afghan valley 8 years ago. Marcus had visited Vincent's grave the week before for the first time since the funeral. He'd brought Alex along partly because the boy had asked to come, and partly because Marcus needed to see if he could lay the guilt to rest. Is this where your friend is buried? Alex had asked, reading the headstone with careful precision. Yeah, Vincent Reeves. He was a good soldier. Were you sad when he died? Very sad and angry? Angry at who? At myself, at the world, at him sometimes. Alex had considered this with his usual seriousness. Mom says it's okay to be angry when people die, as long as you don't let the angry take over everything else. What do you mean? Like it's okay to miss them and be sad they're gone, but you can't let missing them stop you from loving the people who are still here. Out of the mouths of babes. Marcus had knelt beside Vincent's grave and finally said the words he'd been carrying for 8 years. I'm sorry I couldn't save you, but I'm going to mine to make sure your sacrifice meant something. Now holding Sarah in the darkness of their bedroom, Marcus understood what Vincent's sacrifice had meant. Not guilt and self-destruction, but the knowledge that every life saved mattered. Every choice to protect instead of destroy made the world a little bit better. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. Text message from Tommy Rodriguez, now president of the Iron Wolves. Board meeting tomorrow night. We need to vote on the Martinez Memorial Fund. Marcus smiled. Dr. Carmen Martinez had recovered fully from her ordeal and had approached the Iron Wolves about starting a medical clinic for uninsured veterans. The club had embraced the project enthusiastically, a chance to return to their original mission of helping soldiers transition back to civilian life. Jake was serving 5 years in federal prison for kidnapping and conspiracy. He'd actually seemed relieved when the sentence came down, like the weight of his choices had finally been lifted from his shoulders. Marcus visited him once a month, trying to rebuild something from the wreckage of their brotherhood. It would take time. But Marcus had learned that second chances were worth fighting for. Sarah stirred in his arms, murmuring something in her sleep. Marcus kissed the top of her head and listened to the quiet sounds of his family. Alex's steady breathing from down the hall, Sarah's heartbeat against his chest, the old house settling into another peaceful night. Somewhere in Afghanistan, Vincent Reeves was finally at rest. Somewhere in Chicago, Emma's memory lived on in every story Marcus read to Alex, every moment of laughter that filled their home. And here in this bed, in this life, he'd somehow stumbled into, through violence and chaos and the kindness of strangers, Marcus Kane had found his way home. The phone buzzed again. Another text, this one from an unknown number. Saw the news about the clinic. Vincent would have been proud. A friend. Marcus stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. Some ghosts were better left at rest. He closed his eyes and held his family close, listening to the sound of their breathing and the distant hum of Chicago awakening to another day. Tomorrow he would help Alex with homework and teach him how to change the oil in a motorcycle. He would work with the Iron Wolves to build something better than what they'd been. He would love Sarah with the fierce devotion of a man who'd been given a second chance at happiness. But tonight he would simply hold them and be grateful for the courage of an 8-year-old boy who taught him that fighting didn't have to mean destroying. Sometimes the bravest thing you could do was choose to build instead. Thank you for following this incredible journey of redemption and found family. If Marcus, Sarah, and Alex's story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe for more emotional stories that prove love can conquer even the darkest of pasts. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Where in the world are you watching from? Your support means everything to storytellers like us. Until next time, remember sometimes the family we need most arrives when we least expect it, and courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to protect others despite being afraid.